North Korea, a country hidden behind walls of secrecy, where the truth is stranger and scarier than fiction. What if I told you that in this land, even your haircut, your clothes, and the movies you watch could decide whether you live or disappear? Today, we're uncovering 100 shocking facts about the strangest country in the world, truths that will leave you speechless. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover is beyond imagination. Part 1: The Land Hidden from the World. Imagine a place where time seems to have stopped. A nation sealed off behind walls of secrecy, where ordinary life feels like something pulled straight from a dystopian novel. For decades, North Korea has carried the title the Hermit Kingdom, a land that outsiders can only glimpse in fragments, and whose citizens live under rules so unusual, they feel almost unreal. But this isn't fiction. It's the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, a country that exists in the shadows of the modern world, where every visitor, every camera, and every whisper is carefully controlled. When tourists first arrive in Pyongyang, the capital, they are struck by its eerie perfection. The streets are wide and meticulously clean, yet strangely empty. The towering monuments and massive stadiums feel larger than life, built to impress and intimidate. But look closer, and the silence in the air tells another story. One of control, fear, and a government desperate to maintain its image at all costs. Unlike any other destination on Earth, traveling to North Korea is not an act of freedom. The moment you step into the country, you are no longer a traveler, you are a monitored guest. You cannot explore on your own, cannot casually walk into a cafe, and cannot simply strike up a conversation with locals. Every movement is watched, every photograph inspected. Take a picture of something deemed unflattering, a half-empty store, a worker resting on the street, and your camera could be confiscated, or worse. Even something as simple as words can be dangerous. Outsiders are forbidden from calling it North Korea. Instead, you must use the nation's full official title, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. To do otherwise is not just seen as disrespect, it is viewed as a political insult. Inside this hidden kingdom, information is the rarest commodity. There is no open internet, no Facebook, no Twitter, not even Google. Instead, citizens live with a state-controlled intranet called Kwangmyong, a closed system filled only with government-approved pages. Foreign movies, music, or books are banned, and possession of a Hollywood film or even a South Korean drama can lead to prison, or in the most extreme cases, execution. It is a country where even time itself was once rewritten. In 2015, Pyongyang declared its own unique time zone, 30 minutes behind South Korea and Japan. In a symbolic effort to break away from foreign influence, they called it Pyongyang time. For a brief moment, even the clock was used as propaganda. For outsiders, these strict rules feel suffocating. But for North Koreans, they are everyday life. Generations have grown up in a system where the outside world is painted as dangerous, corrupt, and hostile. To most citizens, the glowing skyscrapers of New York or the bustling markets of Seoul are distant fantasies, images whispered about, but never truly seen. And so, North Korea remains shrouded in mystery, a place that feels like another planet, operating by its own rules, where the truth is carefully hidden behind walls of propaganda. Yet this is only the beginning, because the deeper you go into the Hermit Kingdom, the stranger and darker the secrets become. Part 2: Rules that defy belief. Life in North Korea is not guided by personal freedom. It is dictated by rules, many of which seem unbelievable to outsiders. Rules that control how you look, what you watch, what you wear, even how you think. Take something as simple as a haircut. In most countries, your hairstyle is an expression of personality. But in North Korea, hair is regulated. Citizens are only allowed to choose from a state-approved list of 28 styles, 18 for women, 10 for men. Anything outside those strict options could be seen as rebellious, even Western. Is control hidden in the smallest details of daily life. Clothing is no different. Blue jeans, for example, are banned. Why? Because denim, especially in the classic American blue, is considered a symbol of U.S. imperialism. Wearing it is not a fashion statement, but an act of defiance against the state. Even your wardrobe in this country must be loyal to the ideology. And then, there is the matter of entertainment. Imagine being told that owning a simple DVD could cost you your freedom. In North Korea, watching South Korean dramas, listening to foreign music, or possessing pornography is not just illegal. It's a crime punishable by harsh sentences, sometimes even death. Smuggled USB sticks and DVDs do make their way into the country, often from China, but those caught with them risk everything. A single Hollywood movie, secretly played at night, becomes an act of rebellion. Religion, too, is heavily restricted. While the government claims freedom of faith exists, the reality is far different. Possessing a Bible or speaking openly about Christianity can result in imprisonment. Entire families have been punished simply for practicing their beliefs in private. The state tolerates no higher authority than its leaders. Even tourism comes with rules that defy logic. Visitors are not allowed to use the country's local money. Instead, foreigners must pay in euros, US dollars, or Chinese yuan. It's as if the government wants to keep outsiders in a bubble, never truly touching the same reality as its own citizens. And then there's photography. For most travelers, taking photos is a way to capture memories. In North Korea, every snapshot is a potential crime. Tourists cannot photograph construction sites, military personnel, or even ordinary citizens without permission. Anything that might portray weakness or poverty is strictly off-limits. To the regime, an image is not just a picture. It is propaganda, and propaganda must always serve the leader. The result is a society where nearly every aspect of life is choreographed. From the way you look, to the way you worship, to the way you entertain yourself, nothing escapes the long shadow of control. To outsiders, these rules sound absurd, even cruel. But for those born inside North Korea, they are not unusual. They are the only reality they have ever known. And while these rules are strange enough, they are only part of the picture. Because behind them stands a dynasty of leaders whose power is built not just on politics, but on myth, a cult of personality so strong, it borders on the supernatural. Part 3: Leaders and the Cult of Personality. At the heart of North Korea's mystery lies a dynasty unlike any other. The Kim family has ruled the nation for more than 70 years. Not simply as politicians, but as near-mythical figures, elevated above ordinary human beings. It began with Kim Il-sung, the founding leader, who is still revered today as the eternal president. Statues of him stand in every city, and his face is printed on every piece of currency. His birthday, April 15th, is celebrated nationwide as the Day of the Sun, the most important holiday of the year. In fact, North Korea even created its own calendar, counting years not from the birth of Christ, but from the birth of Kim Il-sung in 1912. To the people, time itself revolves around their leader. But the cult goes far beyond celebrations. Stories taught in schools describe Kim Il-sung as a genius military strategist who single-handedly defeated the Japanese. Children are taught that he could perform miracles and even control the weather. In Pyongyang, his preserved body lies in a glass coffin, and citizens are required to bow before it when visiting. For many North Koreans, his presence is still felt, as though he never truly died. His son, Kim Jong-il, inherited not just the throne, but the mythology. Known as the Deer Leader, he was said to have been born on a sacred mountain under a double rainbow, while a new star appeared in the sky. State media claimed he composed operas, wrote books on philosophy, and scored multiple holes in one the very first time he played golf. Of course, none of these tales are true, but in North Korea, truth is what the regime decides it to be. Kim Jong-il's lavish lifestyle stood in stark contrast to his people's suffering. While famine swept the nation in the 1990s, he reportedly spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on imported cognac every year. He built grand palaces, kept exotic pets, and collected luxury cars, all while his citizens struggled to find enough food to survive. And now, the cult continues with Kim Jong-un, the current leader. Portraits of him hang in every building. Citizens wear badges with his family's image pinned to their chests. Children sing songs praising his wisdom and bravery. In North Korea, loyalty is not optional. It is demanded, woven into the very fabric of daily life. The power of this cult of personality is perhaps most visible in the Arirang Mass Games, one of the largest choreographed events in the world. Over 100,000 performers fill the stadium, moving in perfect unison, creating massive human mosaics that depict the glory of the Kim dynasty. It is a spectacle of breathtaking scale, and a chilling reminder of how deeply the state controls both body and mind. Even nature has been used to honor the leaders. 2 flowers were specially cultivated and named after them: the Kimilsungia and the Kimjongilia, orchids that bloom each year in state exhibitions, symbolizing the eternal life of the dynasty. But behind the grandeur lies fear. In North Korea, failing to show respect to the leaders can lead to imprisonment, not just for the offender but for their entire family. A careless word, a missed bow, or even folding a newspaper with the leader's image could be seen as treason. It is a system where politics has merged with mythology, where the ruling family is not just obeyed, but worshipped. And it is this worship that keeps their grip on power unshaken. Yet while the leaders live in palaces, the people live under constant struggle. And to understand North Korea fully, we must look beyond the cult, into the daily lives of ordinary citizens, who bear the weight of this hidden empire. Part 4: Life Inside the Walls. Behind the towering monuments and choreographed parades lies another North Korea, one that tourists rarely see, and the government works tirelessly to hide. It is the daily life of ordinary people, lived under watchful eyes and within invisible walls. For most North Koreans, survival is a constant struggle. The average annual income is estimated at less than $1,000, yet the cost of living is shaped by shortages. Electricity, for example, is unreliable. Entire cities plunge into darkness every night, visible even from space. While South Korea glows with neon lights and bustling streets, its northern neighbor appears as a black void on the map, a haunting symbol of isolation. Food, too, is never guaranteed. The government distributes rations, but they are often meager. Rice and corn form the bulk of most meals, with meat considered a rare luxury. In times of crisis, families survive on wild grasses, tree bark, or whatever they can gather. Malnutrition has left entire generations physically shorter and weaker than their southern neighbors. A difference of just a few hundred kilometers has created a gap in health that is visible to the naked eye. And yet, in Pyongyang, the showcase capital, a different picture is painted. Here, select citizens chosen for their loyalty enjoy better housing, food, and education. Apartments are free, healthcare is universal, and schools provide uniforms and books. But this privilege comes at a price: constant loyalty. Only the most trusted families are allowed to live in the capital, while others are sent to the countryside, where conditions are far harsher. Work is another window into this hidden world. Unemployment, at least officially, does not exist. The state assigns every citizen a role, from farming to mining to factory labor. Farmers and miners are often paid more than teachers or doctors, reflecting the regime's obsession with heavy industry. A standard work week includes not just 40 hours of labor, but mandatory volunteer shifts, where citizens perform community projects, from sweeping streets to building roads. Refusing is not an option. Education, like everything else, is tightly controlled. Children begin school at age 5, and their lessons are not just about math and science, but about loyalty to the Kim family. Textbooks glorify the leaders, rewriting history to place them at the center of every victory. By the time students graduate, their worldview is already shaped to match the ideology of the state. Even leisure is regulated. Sports, concerts, museums, all are state-organized, free of charge, and designed to showcase unity. There is no casual trip to the cinema, no spontaneous night at a cafe. Entertainment exists, but always under the watchful eye of the regime. What outsiders would call privacy simply does not exist. Phones cannot call abroad, the internet is off-limits, and neighbors are expected to report on each other. A careless word about the government spoken in the wrong company could lead to prison, not only for you but for your entire family. This 3 generations of punishment policy means that one mistake can condemn children and grandchildren to a lifetime of suffering. And yet, despite the fear, whispers of rebellion persist. Smuggled radios hidden in attics, foreign films passed from hand to hand, forbidden music played softly in the dead of night. For some, these secret glimpses of the outside world ignite hope. For others, they bring only danger. It is a paradox. A nation where citizens are promised free housing, free education, and free healthcare, yet at the same time are deprived of freedom itself. A society where survival depends on loyalty, silence, and absolute obedience. But what happens when that silence breaks? When a citizen decides that living inside the walls is no longer bearable and dares to escape? That is where the story of North Korea becomes even more dangerous. Part 5: Escape and Consequences. For some North Koreans, the walls of their homeland become too suffocating to bear. The hunger, the fear, the endless obedience. It all drives them toward one desperate thought: escape. But fleeing North Korea is no simple act of rebellion. It is a gamble with life itself. The borders are lined with soldiers, fences, and landmines. Crossing into South Korea directly is almost impossible, as the demilitarized zone, the DMZ, is one of the most heavily guarded borders on Earth. Watchtowers, barbed wire, and armed patrols make it a death trap for anyone who dares to cross. Instead, most defectors risk another path, slipping into China. But even this is a perilous journey. The rivers that separate the two countries are patrolled day and night. Chinese authorities, bound by agreements with Pyongyang, often capture defectors and send them back, where they face torture, imprisonment, or even execution. The cost of escape is staggering. Smugglers demand thousands of dollars, often more than $8,000, to guide a single person through secret routes, bribes, and safe houses. For ordinary families, this is a fortune, sometimes requiring relatives abroad to pool resources just for one chance at freedom. And yet, despite the risks, people continue to run. They travel by night, hiding in forests and abandoned barns, moving silently across borders. Some make it all the way through China into Southeast Asia, where sympathetic governments help them reach South Korea. Others are caught along the way and disappear forever. The consequences are not limited to the escapee. In North Korea, guilt spreads like a shadow. If one family member defects, the punishment often falls on those left behind. Parents, siblings, even children can be arrested and sent to brutal labor camps, condemned for crimes they never committed. This 3 generations of punishment is designed to break the spirit of anyone tempted to flee. And yet, stories of successful escapes do emerge. Defectors who reach South Korea describe their first taste of freedom with awe. Lights that never go out, markets overflowing with food, the ability to speak without fear. For them, freedom is not an idea, it is a shock to the senses. But their journey doesn't end at escape. Many struggle with guilt, knowing their families may have paid the price. Others battle culture shock, realizing just how much of the world had been hidden from them. And some, even in safety, cannot shake the fear of the regime that once controlled every aspect of their lives. Still, every defection is a crack in the wall of silence. Each story that escapes the Hermit Kingdom reveals truths the government works tirelessly to conceal. And as more stories emerge, the world begins to see the other side of North Korea. Not just a land of strange rules and grand parades, but a fortress of suffering, where freedom itself is the most forbidden dream. But this dream is not the only secret hidden behind the border. Beyond the lives of its people lies another side of North Korea, one forged in steel, fire, and the promise of war. Part 5: Escape and Consequences. For some North Koreans, the walls of their homeland become too suffocating to bear. The hunger, the fear, the endless obedience. It all drives them toward one desperate thought: escape. But fleeing North Korea is no simple act of rebellion. It is a gamble with life itself. The borders are lined with soldiers, fences, and landmines. Crossing into South Korea directly is almost impossible, as the demilitarized zone, the DMZ, is one of the most heavily guarded borders on Earth. Watchtowers, barbed wire, and armed patrols make it a death trap for anyone who dares to cross. Instead, most defectors risk another path, slipping into China. But even this is a perilous journey. The rivers that separate the two countries are patrolled day and night. Chinese authorities, bound by agreements with Pyongyang, often capture defectors and send them back, where they face torture, imprisonment, or even execution. The cost of escape is staggering. Smugglers demand thousands of dollars, often more than $8,000, to guide a single person through secret routes, bribes, and safe houses. For ordinary families, this is a fortune, sometimes requiring relatives abroad to pool resources just for one chance at freedom. And yet, despite the risks, people continue to run. They travel by night, hiding in forests and abandoned barns, moving silently across borders. Some make it all the way through China into Southeast Asia, where sympathetic governments help them reach South Korea. Others are caught along the way and disappear forever. The consequences are not limited to the escapee. In North Korea, guilt spreads like a shadow. If one family member defects, the punishment often falls on those left behind. Parents, siblings, even children can be arrested and sent to brutal labor camps, condemned for crimes they never committed. This 3 generations of punishment is designed to break the spirit of anyone tempted to flee. And yet, stories of successful escapes do emerge. Defectors who reach South Korea describe their first taste of freedom with awe. Lights that never go out, markets overflowing with food, the ability to speak without fear. For them, freedom is not an idea, it is a shock to the senses. But their journey doesn't end at escape. Many struggle with guilt, knowing their families may have paid the price. Others battle culture shock, realizing just how much of the world had been hidden from them. And some, even in safety, cannot shake the fear of the regime that once controlled every aspect of their lives. Still, every defection is a crack in the wall of silence. Each story that escapes the Hermit Kingdom reveals truths the government works tirelessly to conceal. And as more stories emerge, the world begins to see the other side of North Korea. Not just a land of strange rules and grand parades, but a fortress of suffering, where freedom itself is the most forbidden dream. But this dream is not the only secret hidden behind the border. Beyond the lives of its people lies another side of North Korea, one forged in steel, fire, and the promise of war. Part 6: The Military Machine and Secrets. If North Korea is a nation built on fear, then its military is the engine that drives that fear forward, both inside and beyond its borders. With a population of just over 25 million, the country maintains one of the largest militaries on Earth. When counting active soldiers, reserves, and paramilitary forces, the number rises to nearly 7.7 million people, almost a third of the entire nation. By comparison, the United States has fewer than a quarter of that under arms. For North Korea, war is not an option. It is a way of life. Every man, and even many women, are required to serve. Men can spend over a decade in uniform, while women are conscripted for years during their youth. Military parades in Pyongyang showcase lines of tanks, ballistic missiles, and thousands of goose-stepping soldiers. A carefully choreographed display meant to project strength to the outside world. But behind the spectacle lies a darker reality. Much of the equipment is outdated, relics from the Soviet era. Tanks from the 1960s, rifles from the Cold War, and aircraft that would be outmatched in any modern battle. Still, what the regime lacks in technology, it compensates for with numbers, and with something far more dangerous: nuclear ambition. In 2006, North Korea shocked the world by testing its first nuclear weapon. Since then, it has conducted multiple nuclear tests, each more powerful than the last, and launched ballistic missiles capable of reaching neighboring countries, and perhaps even the United States. The message is clear: the Hermit Kingdom may be poor, but it is not powerless. Its weapons are designed not just to defend, but to intimidate. And intimidation has long been part of its strategy. In the 1960s, North Korean forces captured the American spy ship USS Pueblo, holding its crew hostage for nearly a year. The ship remains in Pyongyang to this day, turned into a museum of victory over the United States. There are darker stories still. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, North Korea carried out kidnappings of foreign citizens, Japanese teenagers, South Korean filmmakers, even European civilians, whisked away to train spies or make propaganda films. Some were never seen again. It is a reminder that the regime's reach does not end at its borders. Beneath the surface, literally, lies another layer of secrecy. The underground tunnels. Discovered along the DMZ, some stretch for miles, large enough to move thousands of troops and heavy artillery in minutes. Each tunnel revealed was a chilling reminder that while the regime speaks of peace, it also prepares for war. And yet, perhaps the most unsettling weapon North Korea wields is not its army, nor its missiles, but its unpredictability. The world never truly knows what Pyongyang will do next. One day it stages massive parades. The next it launches rockets into the sea. Then it invites diplomats for peace talks only to withdraw again. This constant cycle of provocation and retreat keeps the world guessing and ensures that North Korea, no matter how isolated, can never be ignored. Inside the country, this military-first policy has a name. Sungun, the idea that the army comes before all else. Factories, farms, even schools exist to support the soldiers. The entire nation is mobilized as if war could break out tomorrow. To outsiders, it is a terrifying vision. A small nation, impoverished but armed with weapons of mass destruction, led by a dynasty that thrives on fear. And yet, for the people inside, it is simply reality. A life lived under the shadow of the gun, where peace is as fragile as the silence before a storm. But for all its power, for all its secrecy, there is one truth North Korea cannot control: the world's growing curiosity. The more it tries to hide, the more the world wants to see. And in that tension lies the final mystery. What future awaits this hidden kingdom? Part 7: The Mystery That Remains. North Korea is a land of contradictions. A place where towering stadiums stand empty while villages go dark without electricity. A nation that boasts of nuclear power while its people line up for food rations. A country that celebrates its leaders with flowers, statues, and songs, even as whispers of suffering echo through the countryside. To the outside world, it is a paradox, a relic of the Cold War that somehow survives in the 21st century. A dictatorship that insists it is a democracy, a land that promises free housing, free healthcare, and free education, yet silences its citizens, censors their thoughts, and controls even the most private parts of their lives. And yet, despite decades of isolation, North Korea continues to fascinate. For every tourist allowed a carefully guided glimpse, thousands more wonder what truly lies behind the curtain. How do families whisper their secrets at night? How do children dream when their textbooks are filled only with propaganda? What truths still remain hidden in the mountains, the tunnels, the prisons, places the outside world has never seen? Some call it a time capsule, a nation frozen in an era long gone. Others call it a powder keg, unpredictable, dangerous, and always on the edge of conflict. But perhaps the most unsettling thought is this: the real North Korea, the one lived by its 25 million citizens, may be something we can never fully understand. What we do know is that the Hermit Kingdom endures. Against sanctions, against famine, against global pressure, it continues to survive, and in its survival, it forces the world to keep watching. Maybe that is the greatest secret of all. Not just how North Korea hides its truth, but how it commands attention without ever revealing it. A silent stage where every image, every speech, every missile launch is a carefully chosen performance. And the world, unable to look away, becomes its captive audience. As night falls on Pyongyang, the lights flicker and fade. The city grows quiet. Behind closed doors, millions of lives unfold. Unseen, unheard, unknown. And beyond the fences, beyond the rivers and barbed wire, the world waits, still asking the same question. What really lies inside the Hermit Kingdom? The answer, for now, remains hidden.